If you're a salon or spa owner working nonstop, barely paying yourself, and terrified to step away because it might all fall apart, you're not alone. Most salon and spa owners were never taught the business side of this industry, and that makes it feel impossible to get ahead. Welcome to the station, where we give you the structure, systems, and strategies to step into the CEO seat and lead like the legend you are. Hey friends, welcome back to the station, the podcast for salon and spa owners who are tired of working hard without real progress and finally ready to build something sustainable, profitable, and people first. I'm Bree, founder of the Beauty Biz Agency, and as always, I've got my amazing co-host, co-founder, and bestie here with me, Chandra. Hey Chandra, how are you?
Hello. Doing good.
Awesome. Well, I think we're just going to get straight into it today. There's a message floating around online, and honestly, even from some coaching companies out there, that KPIs and level systems are no longer needed, that they are completely outdated. Meaning, commission salon owners don't need to create KPIs for their stylist or employees at all anymore. That you don't need to track performance individually, that you can just focus on the vibe or trust the process. And I want to say this as directly as I can. That advice is absolutely wrong. Right, Chandra?
Oh, yeah. 100% wrong. Don't take it.
I mean, if you don't have individual KPIs, whether it's for your team as a commission salon owner or even for yourself as an independent stylist, you have no way to measure growth, right? You have no way to decide promotions, no way to know when someone deserves a raise or a leadership opportunity, and really no way to coach your gaps in a fair way. KPIs, they tell the story of each and every person in your business. Without them, you simply cannot lead, in my opinion. So that's what we're going to dive into today, Chandra. Why individual KPIs matter, what they actually measure, and how you can use them to lead your team or even yourself toward growth and profitability. Before we dive in too deep, I want to share a story from one of our amazing BBA members, because you guys know we love this. And I think this one kind of shows exactly why creating individual KPIs matter. So she came to us at a breaking point. She told us, I feel like I'm failing my team. I can't help them grow. And every month my profit is basically zero. That's a horrible place for any owner to be. Caring about your people, wanting them to build real careers, but at the same time, lying awake at night, wondering how long you can even keep the doors open. Horrible place to be. When we started digging in, we realized the problem almost instantly. She was missing clarity. Clarity in the form of those clear growth plans for her technicians. Now, she was tracking the salon as a whole the best that she could, but her team, they had no roadmap for what it looked like to move up and to build in her studio. So we built individual KPIs. We set benchmarks that actually matched her pricing and her goals. And we put a level system in place so her people could see exactly how to grow and the exact steps that they needed to take in order to do that. Here's what happened. In just 90 days, her salon turned a 15% profit and 3 of her technicians earned promotions. Now, when we talk to her on her one-on-one calls, she tells us all the time, I finally have confidence as an owner. I know that I'm helping my employees build real careers, and I don't have to carry this entire business on my own anymore. Chandra, I know you were there with me alongside all of that, but what is the point that stuck out most to you during this transformation?
I think that when she was going through this transformation, that she actually realized how important these things are and how easy it actually is once you get this set up, once you get the ball rolling, and that they really do shape like the success of your whole business. And I think once, she started to see that, that was like the biggest turning point. I thought that was really cool is she realized like, oh, this isn't that hard. And now I feel empowered to know what to do with this information.
Yeah, it blows my mind. And this is not what we're going to talk about, but it blows my mind that people think level systems are outdated or KPIs and benchmarks are just completely outdated. Like, does that not blow your mind completely?
Yeah, I don't even get what are you even doing then if you don't have something to measure off of?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. A lot of owners think that just having KPIs is enough, but it's not. What actually matters is having the right KPIs for your business. And I know because I got this wrong for years. I was in a very reputable coaching program back then, and they gave me this sheet of KPIs and they were like, here, this is what you're missing. This is what you need. Now just go use these with your team. So that's exactly what I did. I literally tracked those numbers faithfully, month after month, year after year, but nothing was moving. My team wasn't growing, the numbers weren't shifting. And I just remember thinking maybe KPIs just don't work at all. Like that's the point that I got to. The problem wasn't the KPIs themselves, though. It was that those numbers, they weren't built for my business. They didn't match my pricing, my overhead, my client journey. Once I rebuilt them to fit my actual business, everything started changing. My stylist finally had benchmarks that made sense. I finally had the clarity in order to coach them. And for the first time, the business really started to grow for me. Chandra, I know you've seen owners try to use KPIs that just don't fit their business. Why do you think so many people get stuck with cookie cutter numbers instead of building the ones that actually work for them?
I think because they don't even know what those numbers actually mean. They don't know how to take that information and what to do with it to actually grow the business or grow the employees individually. So I think they just are looking for the easy fix, right? And if it's like this coaching company says do these numbers, then you just think, yeah, that's what I should do. Or they see it somewhere else instead of actually knowing what to do with that information. I think that's the biggest thing we see when we coach people too, is we help them get there, but then they're like, now what do I do with this? So it's really that understanding.
Yeah, and I made that mistake. I thought that everything could be cookie cutter. I thought plug and play, right? And that's what a lot of people think, but it is so not that way in any way, shape, or form. So we aren't trying to badmouth any coaching companies out there, but if you are working with a coaching company, make sure that those KPIs and benchmarks are set up specifically for your unique situation. Before we go too far deep into this, I do want to clear something up real quick because I hear these two words used interchangeably all the time, KPIs and benchmarks. And yes, they do go hand in hand, but they are not the same thing. They're not. So here's the difference between a KPI and a benchmark. A KPI is just the number that you are tracking. For example, the rebooking percentage, the average ticket, the retail to service ratio. A benchmark is actually the goal for that number, for that KPI. So if you decide your rebooking benchmark is 80%, that means 80% is the target that you're working toward. And here's why this matters. If you only track the KPI without a benchmark, right? You're just kind of staring at random numbers. Like a stylist could be at 62% rebooking, but is that good or is that bad? You don't know. And if you only set benchmarks without tracking the KPIs, you're basically kind of just guessing at everything. You have a goal, but you have no way to know if you're actually hitting it. So it's important to understand this. They have to work together. The KPI tells you where you are right now, right? Like this is what we're looking at. The benchmark tells you where you're trying to go. And when you put them side by side, you finally have a roadmap in order to coach your team and to grow your business. Chandra, when you're coaching owners, what do you think is like the biggest light bulb moment when that they have once they finally understand the difference between a KPI and a benchmark? Because I know a lot of people that come to us, they're like, wait, KPIs and benchmarks? Why do we need both? Like what is that?
I mean, I think the biggest light bulb moment is just them understanding the difference and understanding the information. And I think once they understand the difference and they sort of see that, then they can take that information and start putting it in place for their team. And I think that's where they get stuck, like you said, like, well, I track KPIs or I track benchmarks, but they don't even really know what either one of those things actually is doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it is confusing. It can be very confusing. And you and I both know there is so much information out there and everybody has a different opinion that it gets crazy. It gets crazy. So one area where having KPIs and benchmarks really can change things for you is when it comes to promotions and bonuses. Without KPIs, without benchmarks, promotions, They happen because someone's just been around forever, right? Or because they asked for a raise, or because you are terrified of losing them, so you just give them more money. Raises kind of just get handed out under pressure. And suddenly that makes your pay structure make no sense, or it puts you in a really, really horrible position when it comes to payroll. But when you have these KPIs, these promotions and bonuses, they're very clear. Here's the KPI, here's the benchmark. And when you consistently hit these, however many days you decide or months, you move up, you get promoted, and guess what? You make more money. They create this career path and roadmap that your team can actually see, and one that they can actually climb. That is a huge reason that people leave commission salons, is because they can't see the ladder, and the goal at the top of the ladder is just not attainable in any way, shape, or form. Chandra, I would like to know from your perspective, how does tying promotions and bonuses to KPIs kind of change the culture inside of a studio, inside of a salon?
I mean, I think it helps your team become more growth minded. And I think they start to want to actually do better. I think it helps them strive for something. They see what it's going to be like. They know what they have to hit. They know how to get there. And it's like when you don't have that, I think your culture sort of just random. Like there isn't that growth mindset. And if you're fighting your team all the time to do better, bring in more revenue, to grow, or to do these things, and you can't get them to do it, part of the problem is because there is no structure around that, and they don't really understand what they have to do to hit 100K, or what they have to do to, you know, hit whatever their income goal is. And so I think that having that in place for them as far as your culture goes is it starts helping everybody work and run in the same direction, instead of everybody just all over the place just doing whatever.
That's so true. And one of the things is everybody has to have a goal. Like, we have goals for everything. If we're going to go on vacation, we have a goal to save this amount of money, right? To pay for the plane tickets, to pay for the hotels, to pay for whatever it is. We have to know how much that is in order to actually get to that vacation. And so it's no different. I don't know why people frown upon this so much. Most owners think KPIs are just about the money too. But the truth is, they are so much more than that. KPIs, I've said this, they show you how to actually coach your people. And once you see that, it can completely change the way that you lead, the way that you lead your business. And I'm going to tell you this, as an owner, there is nothing better than knowing that there's real purpose behind the way that you're guiding and you're coaching your team. You should always want to feel like you're helping them build real careers, not just giving them a chair to work behind. And nothing gives you more clarity and purpose than being able to sit down with a stylist or a technician, looking at their numbers and knowing exactly where to focus in order to help them grow. I mean, if someone's rebooking is stuck at 40% and the benchmark is 80, now you have direction. You're not just telling them do better, right? You're showing them how to close at the chair and how to keep their books full. If their average ticket is just flatlined, that's your cue to work on add-ons and maybe pricing confidence with your team. If their retention is slipping, that points you straight to consultations and the guest experience. Without KPIs and benchmarks, those one-on-one conversations, they can feel awkward. And honestly, if we're not careful, they can feel really, really personal, like you're just pointing out their flaws. But when you've got the right KPIs, the right benchmarks in place, that coaching is clear, it's fair, and it is specific. You walk into those meetings prepared with a plan built for each and every team member that works for you. And when you do that, your team isn't going to just shut down. They're going to feel supported because you've just given them everything wrapped up in a bow that they need to grow their career. Chandra, why do you think stylists respond better when coaching is tied to numbers instead of just an owner's opinion?
I think because they don't even really know how to hit their goals, or to do better, or to grow. And so they're relying on the owner to be that person to really guide them in the right direction, to help them grow, or to help them understand what they need to be doing. And so I think when you have that stuff in place and you come into those meetings that way, you're actually helping them become empowered with what they need to do. They're the ones that need to put in the work. But if they have a clear understanding of, okay, cool, we're going to work together, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and it's going to help me hit these benchmarks or these, whatever KPIs benchmarks you're shooting for. And then I get to level up and I get to have a price increase or whatever that looks like for your career path. But I think when you have that, it changes that whole conversation. And they do. They know what to do once you just give them that information and just give them a little bit of help and guidance. And so I think that arms you to help them grow.
It's so funny because people probably think we're crazy because we always say that you will step out from behind the chair and you will find passion in a different way. And I think for you and I, this is a huge passion, right? Like, there is nothing like seeing your employees make $100,000, $200,000 a year working 4 days a week. Like, it gives me chills when I think about it. It's amazing when you have the time to coach and you have the data that you need in order to coach your team. That is so doable. It's not near as hard as what people think. And it just gives you this fire inside as an owner, knowing that you are helping your team take care of themselves, take care of their families, reach the goals that they want to hit, do what they want to do, buy what they want to buy, go where they want to go. It is absolutely amazing. I do want to say this. If you are a solo stylist, this still applies to you. Just because you don't have a team, it doesn't mean that you don't need these KPIs or these benchmarks. Sure, maybe you feel on top of the world because you are booked out. But if your average ticket hasn't moved in 6 months, or if clients aren't coming back, then you're not really growing. That's what KPIs do. They cut through the story in your head and they show you what's actually happening in your business. Not just how busy you feel, not just what your bank account looks like that day, but whether or not you are building something sustainable. Chandra, if you were sitting with a solo stylist who told you, I don't need KPIs, I just look at my bank account, what would you say to them?
I mean, I think the biggest thing I would say is just kind of what are your future goals? Like, what do you want in the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 years? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to be able to buy a car? Do you want to go on a vacation? Do you want to take on a team at some point? Like, finding out what that is, because when you're just looking at your bank account, you're just living moment to moment, day to day, and you have no set goal in mind. And so if you can tie that into, you know what, I do want to buy a house. So, okay, what is my average ticket? How many clients can I see in a day? Can I hit this number that I need to hit every single week to save or whatever that looks like? And then, what do I need to do? Do I need to raise my prices? Like all of those things, that story becomes, told. You get to understand exactly what you need to do in order to hit those goals. So as a solo, if you're not setting those kind of benchmarks for yourself, you really have no unit of measurement of where you want to go. And if you want to retire or something like that at some point, you absolutely need to have these in place so that you can understand your business and what you need to make.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I was thinking retirement, right? Because that's something that you and I talk about a lot because most people in this industry, they don't retire or they retire, but they retire broke. They work themselves to the bone and it is just absolutely horrible. Another way to think about this too is maybe you want to work less, right? Maybe you just want to work 3 days a week, but you still need the same amount of income. So you're going to have to look at those KPIs and those benchmarks to see what you need, where you're at, how you do it. Like Chandra said, if you don't have that story, the data, you're in big trouble. You don't know how to get there. Okay, I want to talk about the culture side of this because this is where a lot of owners really miss out, I think. Yes, the numbers matter, they matter a ton. Don't get me wrong. But if you've got a team, you have to realize something. KPIs and benchmarks, they're not just about tracking numbers. They are about building careers. And we've said it throughout this entire episode. When every stylist has their own KPIs and benchmarks, the excuses, they start to disappear. There's no more, she's my favorite, or I've been here the longest, I should be making more, or any of the dumb crap that we hear. That stuff dies off because everybody knows the standard. Everyone knows exactly what it takes in order to move forward. And here's where it really shifts your culture, in my opinion. When you're able to start coaching more clearly, when you can guide your team with that confidence, and when you lay out those career growth plans, right? Your people get hungry again. They get so hungry. They stop feeling stuck. They stop feeling like they are living in, what's that movie? Groundhog Day, right? Clocking in, working behind the chair, clocking out, and nothing ever changing. Because here's the truth. Your employees, they only want to know two things from you. How can I make more money? And what are the exact steps I need to get me there and to keep that money growing, right? That's it. That's what is running through their minds every single day that they show up to work. If you can't answer those two questions for them, they are going to eventually check out, or worse, they're going to go somewhere else in order to find those answers. But when you can answer those questions, when you can put numbers and benchmarks in front of them that are tied to that career growth plan, the entire vibe inside of your salon is going to start changing. People are going to feel secure because they know what's expected. They feel motivated because they can see the progress. And most importantly, they trust you because you've stopped making promises, right? And you've started giving them that clear roadmap that they can actually walk. That's what KPIs and benchmarks do. They don't just grow your profit, they can change your culture. They create a team that knows exactly how to win, exactly how to grow, and exactly what it takes to build a true career inside of your business. Chandra, don't you feel like once owners finally just get this part, that KPIs and benchmarks are really about the career growth, you can almost watch the culture shift in their salon almost instantly?
For sure. I think that's also been, I love watching that, but I think what I love watching more than anything is the owner's surprise at how their culture shifted. And they're like, "Oh, these salons that other people talk about that run this certain way that I never thought I could ever have is happening." And that might be the only change that they've made in the beginning, is just implementing that career growth plan. And then they're like, my team is doing what they're supposed to be doing. We start getting messages, I promoted somebody. And it's like, that's like the best thing ever to see happen.
It just takes it from that gloom and doom a lot of times to that hype, right? Like, yeah, the hunger is unreal. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen overnight because it takes time. I mean, you're going to get some pushback in the beginning, obviously. You're going to have questions that you need to answer. You're going to have to make sure this is all set up, but it really can change everything. I think the last thing that I want to talk about is profitability, because I think this is a very important piece that owners don't see a lot of times when it comes to KPIs. KPIs and benchmarks, they don't just change that culture, they will change your bottom line. When those numbers start moving in the right direction, it shows up everywhere in your business. You have more revenue coming in from the same amount of clients because your average ticket is higher, right? You've got future income locked in because rebooking is strong. You've got better margins because your retail is moving. Like, it changes everything. And that profit, the cool thing about it is that's not just happening by chance. It's happening because your team is being coached to hit the right numbers. And those numbers are tied directly to the benchmarks that you've set. And that means when they grow, the business grows right alongside them. Chandra, would you agree that most owners completely underestimate how much profit they're losing just because they aren't holding themselves and their teams accountable to the KPIs?
I think they underestimate it. I think they don't even know what profitability looks like in those situations. So they have no clue what that even means because they're not hitting it ever for years, because they're not pushing their team to bring in what needs to be brought in just to make the business run. And you'll never get out from behind the chair that way, for sure.
You know, it's so sad. Social media has just ruined our society, our culture, our industry. Yes, it has helped in some ways, but it has ruined it because I scroll through and watch things all the time. And, you'll see an employee for a certain salon saying this, that, and the other. My salon owner doesn't make me do any of this. We don't have a level system. We set our own pricing. One girl, I literally watched a video yesterday. She was saying in the last 2 months, She has worked 12 days. 12 days at a commission salon. I just want to tell you guys there is a way to be an owner that leads, coaches, and guides the right way, that gives your team freedom, that gives them a little bit of, ability to have a life outside of work, but still run a profitable, sustainable business. Because at the end of the day, if you aren't doing that, why are you doing this? Why? Why are you doing this in the first? You would be so much better off renting your own suite, not having the issues and the overhead and the complaints and the drama and everything else, and probably making a lot more money. You have to have things like this in place, and you can do it in a very diplomatic way where everybody is happy. Okay. So let's take this out of theory and put it into real life really, really quickly, because it's one thing to sit here and nod along when we talk about KPIs and how much they matter. But it's another thing entirely to actually build them, track them, and use them to grow yourself and your team. So the first step is really deciding which KPIs you actually want to track for your business. Let me remind you, KPIs and benchmarks, they go hand in hand. KPI is the metric, right? Benchmark, target. You have to create both, or you are just collecting random numbers. So a lot of salons track the same numbers, things like rebooking, average ticket, retail to service percentage, new client retention, things of that nature. But here's what I need you to hear. Your benchmarks, and I've said it earlier, but I'm saying it, they cannot be copied and pasted from somebody else's salon. Your pricing is different. Your service mix is different. Your growth plan is different. That means your benchmarks are going to be different too. I'm going to tell you guys this. Out of the hundreds of salon owners that Chandra and I have worked with and coached over the last few years, not a single one of them, not a single one have had identical KPIs and benchmarks, have they, Chandra?
No, no.
Not one. Because the benchmarks, they have to be built specifically and uniquely for your business if you actually want them to work. Chandra, if we're working with an owner who's maybe brand new to creating these KPIs and these benchmarks, and even just the idea of creating career growth plans, what is maybe one of the first or maybe two KPIs that you'd start them with, just so it doesn't feel so completely overwhelming in the beginning?
I mean, the two of the easiest ones to start with are going to be your average service ticket and your average retail ticket. And I think those two are easy because they're very easy to track and measure. They don't require a ton of change to implement or get those in place. And I think that you could start with those like right away. And so just setting something that makes sense, right? Like you said, for your service pricing, types of products you sell, what is the price of, your average price of those things? That's how you customize that. Because if you cookie cutter it and somebody else's prices are $200 for a haircut and yours are 70, then your benchmarks are going to be way too high. Your team will never hit it. And so really customizing it and starting with maybe those two, that would get you moving.
I 100% agree. Those are the two that I would say as well. People don't realize how deflating it is to set goals that are unattainable. So deflating, right? It can absolutely ruin the culture in your business. Okay, so once you've set these KPIs and these benchmarks, the second step is actually making them visible to your employees. And this is where a lot of salon owners, they have really good intentions, but they kind of miss the mark. What usually happens is they run the numbers once a month, right? They glance at them for 30 seconds when they have time in between performing services or doing what they do, and maybe they bring them up in a one-on-one meeting. And then they just kind of expect their team to magically improve. It doesn't work like that. If you really want to create growth, these numbers have to be tracked weekly and they have to be shared consistently. Your employees should know their rebooking percentage, their average ticket, whatever KPIs and benchmarks you've created for their career growth plan. They should know them every single week, not once in a while, not when you remember, but every week, honestly, every week at minimum. That's what I would say. And if you're a solo stylist, once again, this still matters. You should be writing these numbers down for yourself and reviewing them just as consistently. Because whether you've got 10 employees or it's just you, the reality is numbers don't lie, but they only work if you actually use them. Chandra, why do you think weekly tracking works so much better than just looking at the numbers once a month?
Because if there is something that's off, you can catch it quick. And then you can do whatever you need to do to get it back on track. If you only look once a month or even further than that, by the time you check, if they haven't been able to keep on top of whatever they're trying to hit, too much time has already gone by. And now it's like you have to restart over and over again every time. So the more often you track, the more that they know. They can see weekly, oh, you know what, my retail was down last week. This week, I know that's something I got to focus on and get it up, or my average ticket, or whatever that looks like. But really getting them to take ownership of it and seeing it on a regular basis is going to make that go so much faster than just tracking it every 30 days or 90 days or whatever.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things to see is once your team kind of gets used to this and they're able to see those on a daily or weekly basis, they start to plan ahead, right? They're like, okay, yeah, my retail was low, right? So what do I have next week? All right, this is what I'm going to focus on and this is what I'm going to offer. And so you see them start to think for themselves. Like Chandra said, take ownership. She actually kind of led us into step number 3, which is using your KPIs as a coaching tool. And I think a lot of owners get tripped up here because here's the thing, the numbers should never feel like a slap on the wrist, right? They're not about making somebody feel like they are failing. They're about giving direction. And I've seen a lot of people do this in their one-on-ones. They make people feel bad, and that's not what it should be. It shouldn't be that at all. You have to coach. It shouldn't just be, you need to do better with rebooking. You need to sit them down and say, here's where you're at right now. Now, here's where you need to be. And here is what we can focus on together to help you get there. When you coach and you guide the right way like that, the numbers, they're not heavy and they're not personal. That's why a lot of people shy away from them, right? Because they feel that way. All they are is a roadmap. And that's when coaching actually works, because your team, they don't walk away feeling defeated or deflated. They walk away knowing exactly what to do next and knowing for a fact that you care about helping them get there. Chandra, don't you think KPIs take so much pressure off of owners in one-on-one conversations? Instead of feeling like you're nitpicking, you're just walking through the numbers together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think it definitely takes that pressure off. I think if you're doing it in a way too where you are coaching and letting them sort of see those aha moments or start to figure it out for themselves, it takes all the pressure off of you. You're just there to be like, hey, yeah, we can talk through some strategies and, and figure out whatever you need. And that makes things so much easier than trying to just sit there and be like, why you're doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you selling more retail? And I think that changes they trust you, they're happier. I mean, my team, they get so excited. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to hit this. And it's amazing to see because they can do it. Your team, for the most part, maybe you don't have somebody, and that's how you can weed people out sometimes, but they mostly can do it if you give them the tools and give them that, like I said, ownership earlier of it. So let them do it because you need your business to be successful. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's just, you're just helping. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. And it's kind of amazing, when you start living this way for a while in your business, it really does kind of change the conversations in the salon too. Instead of all the blah, 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 and blah, 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 especially from owner to stylist, right? Like you have something to talk about. Like you can check on them. You can, they're at the front desk. Hey, where are you at on this? How can I support you? What do you need help with? It just changes a lot of things, I think. Okay, step number 4, you have to tie KPIs to career growth or to growth opportunities, right? Promotions, bonuses, leadership roles, all of it should connect back to those benchmarks. We talked about this. This is what creates fairness. It's what is going to make your culture stronger. And this is what gives your team a real reason to care about the numbers, to be honest. It's all about the money and what it's going to do for them, right? They can see the path, they know what it takes, and they know that it is possible if, like Chandra said, they put in the work. They know. They know. Chandra, would you agree that this is one of those things that sounds kind of small, but ends up being one of the main reasons a salon either grows or stays stuck?
Yeah, I think owners sometimes hear these things and they're like, nah, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to do it. Or nobody's, they think it's not going to be that big of a deal for them to implement it. So they don't. And I think, it actually is honestly probably the top 3. And if I had to go by the top 3 things that actually makes my business run, at all, is that would be like probably right up there within the top three, maybe even number one, to be honest. Because without your team working in that growth mindset and taking the business where it needs to go, you have no business. And so you really, really need them to get behind it. And this is like one of the best ways that you can do it.
Well, and you're definitely never going to be able to step out from behind the chair or to step away from your business and be profitable if you don't have this stuff. Like it's not going to happen. Okay, let's jump into our listener question for today. This one came in from a salon owner who asked, what do you do when a stylist asks for time off constantly and it's starting to hurt the schedule and revenue? Take it away, Chandra.
Well, I mean, if I think it depends. Like, there's a couple scenarios to a story like this. If you have a really small team, you can't afford to have people taking time off all of the time. And so I think you just have to put those guidelines in place. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could go about it. You could have them take the time off and make the time up and work extra hours or do something like that so that you're not losing all that revenue. Or you just have to have the guideline and you have to tell them no at some point. Like, if they're just constantly trying to get time off, they're not making the time up, and they're just it's hurting your revenue, then you have to have those guidelines, I think, put in place, and you have to hold them accountable.
No, I agree with that 100%. And it's not that you're being mean, guys. You are running a business at the end of the day. And the reality of the situation is too, they need you. They depend on you. They depend on that structure, right? Those guidelines that Chandra's talking about. Everybody needs and craves that. We talk about this all the time. They, we get so many young people that come to us. We're salon owners and they just don't realize, they just don't understand. And so, yes, give them time off when they need it. Obviously, they want something, but have parameters in what that looks like for you and your business. And when it starts taking a hit, this is what Chandra and I see all the time. The owner's just like, okay, it's hitting us revenue wise, it's hitting us schedule wise. I'm just going to jump back behind the chair and pick up the slack. And that's the last thing that you want to do, especially if you've gotten yourself out. Yes, there may be circumstances, special ones where you have to do that, but it's not something that you want to do all the time, right, Chandra?
Definitely not. You don't want to get in that habit for sure.
We've been there, guys. That's why we say this. We're preaching to the choir here. All right, we've covered a lot today, and here's what we want you to take away. KPIs and benchmarks, they aren't just numbers. They are the actual roadmap for growing your people, for building a stronger culture, and for creating real profit in your business. Don't make the mistake I did. I told you earlier that for years I was tracking the wrong KPIs and using benchmarks that did not even fit my salon business. And because of that, my team stalled out, my culture, it got really messy, and my profit, it didn't exist at all. I'm going to be honest with you guys. That's what I'm telling you, begging you, don't just go grab some random numbers off the internet or off of social media. Don't just copy what another salon is doing. Find a mentor, find a coach who can help you build these KPIs, these benchmarks, these level systems, these career growth plans that actually match your pricing, your service mix, your goals. And if you don't know where to start, hit us up. That's exactly what we do at the Beauty Biz Agency. Make sure you go to www.thebeautybizagency.com, grab some of our free resources, look at some of our tools, and check out our coaching options. They will actually help you put this system in place the right way so you don't waste years spinning your wheels the same way I did. This is the difference between staying stuck and finally stepping into the CEO role. Don't wait, get the help, put the right KPIs and benchmarks in place, and watch how fast things start to change. Chandra, if you had to sum it up, what's one thing you would want every owner or solo stylist to remember about KPIs after today's conversation?
I mean, I think that they are important. And if you're somebody who thinks that they don't work or they're dumb or you don't want to put those kind of parameters on yourself or your team or whatever, they are important. You can't grow if you have nothing to measure, and you can't reach the goals you want to reach, make the income you want to make, if you have nothing to measure and work towards. So if you think they're not important, good luck.
Amen, sister. All right. That's a wrap for today, guys. If this episode gave you something to think about, send it to another salon owner who needs to hear it. Also, make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss what's next. Leave us a quick review if you don't mind. It helps us more than you know. It helps us find more beauty pros. And that's what we want, is to get as many as we can listening so we can revolutionize this industry. Chandra, how can our listeners stay connected with everything we've got going on at the Beauty Biz Agency?
Yeah, definitely check us out on social media, the Beauty Biz Agency on Facebook or Instagram, or Beauty Biz Mentors on TikTok. And join us the first Monday of every month live on Facebook and YouTube at 6 p.m. Central Time. If you got any questions you want us to answer on the air, definitely pop in and we could do that.
It's so funny. We get so many questions sent in, but on our lives, like nobody shows up. So show up, guys. Come join us. Like we will talk to you right then and there. It's pretty amazing. All right. You've been listening to The Station, the podcast for salon owners who are ready to grow with clarity, confidence, and profit. Until next time, get those goals set, coach with clarity, and build a culture your team can actually grow inside of. Now go out there, make bank, run the show, and ditch that chair. And as always, keep slaying those business goals with a whole lot of swagger.